The tribe expelled 2 Apache women for being widowed. The rancher said, "Come with me." The sun was just beginning to rise over the desert hills when Nair and Ahioka stepped out of their small homes for the last time. The morning air was cold and dry, carrying the faint scent of sagebrush and dust. They had lived in this part of the Apache reservation their entire lives, knowing every hill, every stream, every path through the scrubby land. But that life, so familiar and comforting, had now ended. The elders of their tribe had declared that widows could no longer remain in the village. It was a rule that felt cruel and unfair, but to them, it was law. Naya clutched the small bundle of her belongings to her chest. Inside were the few clothes she still had, a worn blanket her husband had once wrapped around her during the cold nights, and a small wooden charm he had carved before he died. She looked over at Ahioka, whose eyes were red from crying the night before. Both women had lost their husbands to illness within months of each other. Life had already taken so much from them, and now they were being told they were unwanted. The villagers watched silently as the 2 women walked toward the edge of the settlement. Some avoided looking at them, afraid of drawing bad luck, as the elders had said. Others looked with pity but said nothing, not daring to challenge the decision. Children stared curiously, not fully understanding the weight of what was happening. The sound of wooden doors closing and the soft thud of footsteps fading into the distance marked the moment as final. Nair and Ahioka did not speak as they walked. Words felt useless, like they could not capture the pain of leaving their homes, the only places they had ever known. Their eyes scanned the landscape, taking in the hills and valleys that had been part of their daily lives. For a moment it felt like saying goodbye to a dear friend. They knew they would never see these familiar paths the same way again. The desert was vast and unforgiving, but Nair and Ahioka had no choice. They had to find a new place to live, somewhere safe, somewhere that would accept them. The first hours were the hardest. Their feet ached from the rocky ground, their stomachs gnawed with hunger, and the sun beat down on them without mercy. They had nothing but their bundles and each other. Every step reminded them that they were no longer part of their own community, no longer protected by family or neighbors. As they walked, they remembered the times they had spent with their husbands. Naya thought of the evenings by the fire, listening to stories and laughing at small jokes. She thought of the mornings in the fields, working together to grow crops and care for the animals. Ahioka remembered her husband's gentle hands and kind smile, and how he had always encouraged her to be strong, even in difficult times. These memories were painful, but they also gave the women strength. They had known love and they had known happiness. That was something no one could take away. By midday, the sun was high and harsh. Nair and Ahioka rested under a lone mesquite tree, sharing a small piece of bread they had saved. The silence between them was comfortable, filled with understanding. They did not need to speak to know what the other was feeling. Naya's hand found Ahioka's, and they squeezed gently, as if to remind each other that they were not alone. The landscape around them seemed endless. Rolling hills stretched in all directions, dotted with cacti and dry grasses. Birds flew overhead, and the occasional lizard darted across the sand. It was beautiful in its own harsh way, but it offered no shelter, no safety, and no certainty of food or water. The women had been raised to respect the land, to survive in its challenges, but even so, fear lingered. Each sound made them pause, each shadow made them cautious. The world beyond their village was unknown, and unknown often meant danger. As the day wore on, Nair and Ahioka began to talk, sharing memories and small hopes. They spoke of finding a place where they could belong, of children who would one day hear the stories of their resilience. Their voices were soft, almost whispers, but each word gave them a sense of purpose. They reminded each other that though they had been cast out, they were not defeated. The bond between them, strengthened by shared loss and shared courage, became their anchor. Evening approached, and with it came a cold wind. The sun dipped behind the hills, casting long shadows across the desert. Nair and Ahioka gathered stones to build a small circle, a makeshift shelter for the night. They wrapped their blankets around themselves and leaned against each other for warmth. Sleep was difficult, filled with dreams of the life they had lost, but also with hope for the days ahead. They knew that tomorrow and the days after would require strength and determination. During the night, the desert sounds were both frightening and comforting. Coyotes howled in the distance, and the wind whispered through the dry grasses. Nea and Ahioka held hands, drawing courage from each other. They whispered quiet prayers to the spirits they had always believed in, asking for guidance and protection. Even in their sorrow, they found ways to hold on to faith. The next morning, they rose with the sun. Their feet were sore, their bodies tired, but their spirits remained unbroken. They knew they could not stay in one place for long. The desert offered little in the way of food and water. So they continued walking, guided by the faint hope that there might be someone somewhere who could help them. Hours passed with little change. Hunger and thirst gnawed at them, but they shared what little they had and encouraged each other to keep moving. Nea noticed tracks in the sand, animal tracks, maybe a sign of water nearby. They followed cautiously, careful not to stray too far from each other. Each small discovery brought a glimmer of hope, a reason to keep going. As the sun climbed higher, the exhaustion began to weigh heavily. Nea and Ahioka rested again under a rock formation, sipping from a small leather pouch of water. They shared stories of the village, of friends and family they had left behind. There were tears, but also laughter, as they remembered moments of joy and silliness. These memories, though bittersweet, reminded them of their strength and resilience. They were women who had survived loss, who had faced hardship, and who now faced the unknown with courage. By late afternoon, the desert began to change. The land became slightly greener, with patches of grass and small streams trickling through the valleys. Nea and Ahioka's spirits lifted. They began to imagine a place where they could live without fear, where they could rebuild their lives. The idea seemed distant, almost impossible, but it gave them a goal, a reason to keep walking. As the sun set, painting the sky with shades of orange and pink, they reached a small ridge overlooking a wide valley. The view took their breath away. It was vast and open, filled with potential. For the first time since they had been expelled, they felt a spark of hope. Perhaps, they thought, this was a sign that they could start over, that life could offer them another chance. That night, they built another small shelter and rested, dreaming of a future that seemed just within reach. They did not know what tomorrow would bring or who they might meet, but they held on to the belief that kindness existed somewhere in the world. The desert, though harsh, had shown them their own strength. They had survived the first night, and they would survive the second. Nea and Ahioka went to sleep holding hands, the stars above shining like tiny guides in the vast darkness. They had left everything familiar behind, but they had not lost everything. They had each other, they had hope, and they had the courage to face whatever came next. And as the wind whispered through the valley, it seemed to carry a quiet promise, that even in the harshest circumstances, life could offer new beginnings. The next morning, Nea and Ahioka woke to a gentle breeze that carried the scent of grass and wildflowers. The desert, which had seemed so empty and harsh yesterday, now looked softer in the morning light. There was a quiet sense of possibility in the air, though they still had no idea where to go or what lay ahead. Their feet were sore, their muscles tired from the long walk, but a small hope had begun to grow in their hearts. Perhaps this day would bring something different, something better. They followed a narrow path that seemed to lead down into a green valley. The hills around them were dotted with wildflowers, and the sound of birdsong filled the air. It was a welcome change from the harsh silence of the desert. They began to speak more openly, sharing stories of their childhood, of the lessons their mothers had taught them, and of the little joys they had found in life. Laughter mixed with tears, reminding them that they were still alive, still capable of feeling and dreaming. As they walked, Nea spotted something unusual in the distance, a small wooden building surrounded by a few fenced areas and grazing animals. It was unlike anything they had seen on the reservation. Curious and cautious, they approached slowly, hiding behind a large bush to watch. A man was walking among the animals, feeding them and checking their condition. He was tall and strong, with gentle movements that suggested care and patience. Nea and Ahioka exchanged glances. Could he be someone who could help them, or was he just another stranger in a world that had so far been unkind? They decided to stay hidden for a while, observing him from afar. The man moved with purpose but never harshness. He spoke softly to the animals, and there was a sense of calm that surrounded him. Nea felt a tiny spark of hope. Perhaps this was a place where they could find safety, a place where they could rebuild their lives. But the thought of approaching a stranger also filled them with fear. They had heard stories of people who pretended to be kind but caused harm instead. Their experience had taught them to be careful, to trust slowly. As the sun climbed higher, the man noticed movement near the bush. He turned and saw the two women standing quietly, unsure of what to do. Instead of reacting with anger or suspicion, he raised a hand in greeting. His voice was warm and gentle. "Hello there," he said. "You don't look like you belong here. Are you lost?" Nea and Ahioka hesitated. They had been told never to trust outsiders, yet something about this man felt different. His eyes were kind, and his expression showed understanding rather than judgment. Nea stepped forward slightly, clutching her bundle tightly. We have nowhere to go," she said softly. "We were told we cannot stay where we lived." The man nodded, his brow furrowed with concern. "I am Samuel Whitaker," he said. "I own this ranch. If you need help, you are welcome here." He gestured toward the small buildings and the fenced animals. "You can stay, eat, and rest. There is work if you want it, but no one will force you to do anything you do not want to do. You will be safe here." For a long moment, Nea and Ahioka simply stared at him, unsure whether to believe his words. It sounded almost too good to be true, but the sincerity in his voice and the calm way he carried himself made them realize that he truly meant what he said. Slowly, they nodded. The decision to trust him was not easy, but desperation and hope guided their choice. As they stepped closer, Mr. Whitaker smiled and offered them water and fresh bread. The simple act of sharing food felt like an enormous kindness. Nea and Ahioka ate slowly, savoring the nourishment, and began to feel a sense of safety they had not felt in weeks. The ranch was quiet and peaceful, surrounded by hills and fields. It felt like a different world from the harsh desert, a world where they could breathe without fear. After they had rested, Mr. Whitaker showed them around the ranch. There were cows grazing in the pastures, chickens clucking near the small barn, and horses in a fenced area. He explained that the ranch was a family business, though he ran it mostly on his own now. He spoke about the importance of hard work and care for the land and animals. His tone was calm and patient, as though he wanted the women to understand the rhythm of life there before asking anything of them. Nea and Ahioka listened carefully, absorbing every detail. The idea of working alongside someone who treated them with respect was new and unfamiliar. They had never been treated as equals before being expelled from their village, and the thought of learning new skills and being useful in a safe place filled them with cautious optimism. Over the next few days, they began to settle into life at the ranch. Mr. Whitaker gave them simple tasks at first, gathering eggs, feeding animals, and helping with cleaning. He never spoke harshly or demanded perfection, instead offering guidance and encouragement. Nea found herself enjoying the work more than she expected. Caring for the animals gave her a sense of purpose, and she felt a quiet satisfaction when a task was done well. Ahioka discovered she had a talent for gardening and helping plants grow. She loved watching seeds sprout into life, a symbol of hope for her own future. During this time, the women also shared stories of their culture with Mr. Whitaker. They taught him simple Apache songs, explained the meaning behind certain traditions, and showed him ways to track animals and understand the land. He listened eagerly, fascinated by their knowledge and wisdom. For the first time in their lives, Nea and Ahioka felt that they were not only survivors, but also teachers. Their experiences, once seen as a mark of misfortune by their tribe, were now respected and valued. Evenings at the ranch became a time of reflection and storytelling. Nea and Ahioka would sit by the fire after finishing their chores, talking quietly with Mr. Whitaker about the past and their dreams for the future. They shared memories of their husbands, of the village, and of the lives they had once known. Though their hearts ached with loss, there was also laughter, small moments of joy, and a growing sense of belonging. They were beginning to see that life could still hold beauty, even after sorrow. One afternoon, while repairing a fence together, Mr. Whitaker paused and looked at them. "I know the world has been harsh to you," he said gently. "But strength is not just about surviving, it's about finding a place where you can grow, where you can live with respect and hope. I hope you find that here." His words were simple, but they carried weight. For Nea and Ahioka, they felt like a promise, a reassurance that they could rebuild their lives in this new place. As weeks turned into months, Nea and Ahioka's confidence grew. They learned to care for the animals, tend the fields, and manage daily tasks. They were no longer wandering in uncertainty. They had a routine, a sense of responsibility, and most importantly, safety. The ranch became a sanctuary, a place where they could heal both physically and emotionally. They also began to notice small signs of friendship and community. Local children from nearby settlements would sometimes visit, curious about the women and the ranch. Nair and Ahioka taught them small lessons about the land, animals, and Apache culture. The children listened with wide eyes and eager hearts, bringing a sense of joy and energy to the ranch. In teaching, the women found a renewed purpose and pride. Despite the comfort and safety, the women never forgot the pain of being expelled. On quiet nights, they would talk about the tribe, about the customs that had cast them out, and about the lessons they had learned. They did not harbor anger or resentment, but they understood the importance of resilience and self-respect. They had endured loss, hardship, and fear, yet they had survived, and now, with kindness guiding them, they were learning how to thrive. As the seasons changed, so did Nea and Ahioka. They became skilled ranch hands, respected not only by Mr. Whitaker but also by visiting neighbors. Their confidence in themselves and their abilities grew daily. They discovered that even in the face of rejection, there was hope and opportunity. The desert they had feared seemed distant now, replaced by fertile fields, flowing water, and the promise of a new life. One evening, as the sun set behind the hills, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold, Nair and Ahioka stood together overlooking the ranch. They held hands, feeling the warmth of each other's presence and the strength that had carried them here. The journey was far from over, but for the first time since their expulsion, they felt a sense of peace. They had found a place that welcomed them, a place where they could grow, heal, and rebuild. And in the quiet of that moment, they realized something important. Sometimes the world may seem harsh and unforgiving, but kindness can appear in the most unexpected places. A single person like Mr. Whitaker could change the course of a life, offering hope where there was none and a chance to start over. For Nea and Ahioka, this ranch was not just a place to live. It was a symbol of resilience, courage, and the human capacity to care for one another. Months passed, and life at the ranch began to feel more like a home for Nea and Ahioka. Each day brought new tasks and new lessons. The early mornings were still cold, but the women no longer felt fear in the wind or emptiness in the quiet. They had learned the rhythm of the ranch, how to wake before sunrise, feed the animals, water the plants, and prepare food for themselves and Mr. Whitaker. Each chore, though sometimes tiring, brought a sense of accomplishment and pride. Slowly, the despair of being expelled from their tribe began to fade, replaced by a determination to make this new place their own. Nea discovered a special talent for caring for the horses. She learned to groom them carefully, to recognize when a horse was uneasy or needed attention, and to guide them gently across the fields. She loved the strength and spirit of the animals, and they seemed to sense her calm presence. Ahioka, on the other hand, found her calling in the garden. She nurtured the soil, planted seeds, and tended young plants as if they were her children. Seeing sprouts emerge from the earth brought her a deep sense of satisfaction and hope. Each day they grew more skilled and confident, and with each passing week, they realized how capable they truly were. Mr. Whitaker continued to treat them with kindness and respect. He never demanded perfection, and he never treated them as though they owed him something beyond their own effort and willingness to learn. He offered guidance when needed and praised their progress, but he also allowed them space to make mistakes and discover solutions on their own. This trust was a new experience for Nea and Ahioka. For so long they had been judged, excluded, and dismissed simply because they were widows. Here, their skills and knowledge mattered. Here they were valued. The women began to notice changes within themselves as well. Their conversations no longer dwelled on sorrow or loss, but on plans and possibilities. They spoke about expanding the garden, building new pens for the animals, and improving the small ranch house. They laughed more easily, their voices carrying over the fields like a song. Even in quiet moments, they felt a sense of peace that had been absent for years. The harsh desert that had once defined their lives seemed distant now, replaced by fertile soil, flowing water, and the gentle rhythm of daily work. Over time, they also developed friendships with neighbors who visited the ranch. The people who came from nearby settlements were curious about the two women and the ranch's operations. Children, especially, were drawn to Nea and Ahioka. They asked endless questions about the horses, the plants, and the lessons the women could teach them. At first, the women were hesitant, unsure if it was safe to open their hearts to outsiders. But as they shared their knowledge, they discovered that teaching brought joy and purpose. The children's bright eyes and eager minds reminded them that life could be full of promise, even after loss and hardship. One afternoon, Nea and Ahioka decided to work on a small project that had been in their minds for weeks. They wanted to create a special garden space near the ranch house, filled with flowers and herbs that could attract bees and butterflies. They chose a sunny patch of land, cleared stones and weeds, and began planting seeds with care. Nea arranged stones to create small paths, while Ahioka carefully placed the young plants in neat rows. It was hard work, but each moment brought a sense of joy and accomplishment. As the days passed, tiny shoots appeared from the soil and the garden began to take shape. The women would often sit together in the evenings, admiring the green sprouts against the brown earth, feeling proud of what they had created. Life was not without challenges. There were days when the work was exhausting, when animals became sick, or when storms threatened to destroy their progress. But Nea and Ahioka faced each obstacle with determination. They remembered the hardships of the desert, the long journey after being expelled, and they knew they could overcome whatever came their way. Each difficulty became an opportunity to learn, to grow stronger, and to rely on the skills they had acquired. Their resilience, once tested by loss, now became a source of pride and confidence. During this time, Nea and Ahioka also found moments for reflection and personal growth. They would sit quietly under the shade of trees, sharing stories of their past and discussing their dreams for the future. Nea spoke of her desire to learn more about animals and perhaps teach others what she had learned. Ahioka dreamed of expanding the garden and helping the land flourish, imagining a place where nature and people could coexist in harmony. Through these conversations, they realized that their past sorrow did not define them. It was simply part of their journey. Their experiences had given them wisdom, patience, and the ability to appreciate life's simple joys. The bond between Nea and Ahioka deepened as well. They had shared grief, fear, and uncertainty, and those experiences had created a connection that was unbreakable. They supported each other in every task, encouraged each other in moments of doubt, and celebrated each small success together. When one of them felt discouraged, the other was there to remind her of her strength. Together, they faced each day with courage and hope, creating a partnership that was both practical and emotional. One spring morning, Mr. Whitaker invited the women to help with a larger project. He wanted to expand the ranch, build new pens, and create a small space where animals could be cared for more efficiently. Nea and Ahioka eagerly agreed, excited for the chance to contribute in a bigger way. They spent weeks planning, organizing materials, and working alongside Mr. Whitaker. The work was demanding, but it also brought them closer to the land and to their own potential. They learned how to build fences, repair tools, and manage resources wisely. Every accomplishment, no matter how small, reinforced their confidence and pride. During this time, the women also began to think about others who had faced hardships like theirs. They remembered the fear and loneliness they had felt after being expelled from their tribe, and they wanted to help others who might find themselves in similar situations. They began discussing ways to offer guidance, support, and education to women who had lost their homes or faced exclusion. The idea of helping others gave them purpose beyond their own needs and created a vision for the future that was larger than the ranch itself. Evenings became times of sharing stories and learning. Nea and Ahioka would teach Mr. Whitaker lessons about the land, plants, and animals, while he shared his knowledge of farming techniques, tools, and management. The exchange of wisdom created mutual respect and understanding. The women began to see themselves not only as survivors, but as contributors to the growth of the ranch and the community. Each day brought new confidence, new skills, and a renewed sense of belonging. As the months turned into seasons, the garden flourished, the animals thrived, and the ranch became a place of productivity and beauty. Nea and Ahioka's work was recognized and valued, not just by Mr. Whitaker, but by neighbors who came to admire the progress they had made. The women felt a sense of accomplishment that had been absent from their lives for years. They had taken the pain of expulsion and transformed it into growth, learning, and hope. One summer evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of gold and orange, Nea and Ahioka walked together along the edge of the ranch. They held hands, feeling the warmth of each other's presence and the peace of a life that had been rebuilt through hard work and care. The land around them was alive and thriving, a reflection of their own growth and resilience. They realized that despite the hardships they had faced, they had found a place where they could truly belong. The women also began to think about the children in the nearby settlements who had shown curiosity about their work. They decided to create small lessons, teaching the children about animals, gardening, and the importance of caring for the land. These lessons became a source of joy and pride, allowing Nea and Ahioka to share their knowledge and values with the next generation. In teaching, they found a sense of purpose that extended beyond their own lives, leaving a positive impact on others. Throughout this period, Nea and Ahioka reflected on the kindness of Mr. Whitaker. His willingness to offer help without judgment, to trust them and treat them with respect, had changed the course of their lives. They understood that sometimes one person's kindness could create a ripple effect, transforming despair into hope, fear into confidence, and loss into opportunity. The women felt gratitude not just for the safety he had provided, but for the lessons he had unknowingly taught them about trust, respect, and the power of support. By the end of the year, Nea and Ahioka had transformed not only the ranch, but also themselves. They were stronger, wiser, and more confident than they had ever imagined possible. Their skills, knowledge, and resilience had turned a place that was once unfamiliar and intimidating into a home filled with opportunity, care, and beauty. They had faced loss and rejection, yet they had created a life full of growth, purpose, and hope. And as they sat together one evening, watching the sun set over the fields, they realized that they had not only rebuilt their own lives but had also planted seeds, both literal and metaphorical, for a future full of promise. The ranch had become a symbol of resilience, friendship, and the human capacity to overcome hardship through courage, compassion, and determination. Nea and Ahioka had discovered that even in the face of life's harshest challenges, there was always the possibility of a new beginning, and that sometimes hope could grow where it was least expected. Years had passed since Nea and Ahioka first arrived at Mr. Whitaker's ranch. Time had a way of transforming the land and the people who lived on it. The once small and quiet ranch had grown into a thriving place, full of life and activity. Horses grazed in the pastures, cows roamed peacefully, and the garden Nea and Ahioka had started was now a vibrant mix of flowers, vegetables, and herbs. Their hard work, patience, and care had turned the ranch into a sanctuary, not just for themselves, but for the animals, the children, and anyone who needed guidance. Nea had become known for her gentle way with the animals. People from nearby towns would come to watch her train horses, calm frightened animals, and tend to the livestock. Her skill was admired not only for its effectiveness, but for the care and respect she showed to each creature. Nea found pride in these moments, realizing that her connection with the animals mirrored the connection she had built with the land and with the people around her. It was a harmony she had never imagined possible during those dark days after being expelled. Ahioka's garden had become a place of wonder. The herbs and flowers attracted bees, butterflies, and birds, creating a small ecosystem that thrived under her attentive care. She had even started teaching local children how to plant seeds, water carefully, and watch as life emerged from the soil. The children adored her, calling her the woman who makes life grow. Ahioka smiled every time she heard it. She realized that nurturing plants and helping children learn were two ways of planting hope for the future. She was building something bigger than herself, a living reminder that even the smallest seeds could grow into something beautiful. The women's relationship with Mr. Whitaker had deepened into a bond of mutual respect and friendship. He continued to support them, offering advice when needed, but always encouraging independence. Together they had faced challenges, storms that threatened crops, animals that needed care, and the endless work of running a successful ranch. But they had always approached each problem with calm determination and teamwork. Mr. Whitaker often said he had never met anyone with such resilience and heart. Nea and Ahioka, in turn, were grateful not just for his help, but for his belief in them. His kindness had given them the freedom to grow, and they had flourished in ways they could not have imagined. One day, while Nea was training a young horse, a group of women approached the ranch. They looked weary, carrying only small bundles of belongings. They were widows from nearby settlements, facing challenges similar to what Nea and Ahioka had once endured. Their eyes held a mixture of fear, sadness, and hope, and Nea's heart immediately went out to them. She gestured for them to come closer, and Ahioka joined her with a warm smile. "Welcome," Nea said gently. "You are safe here. You can rest and you can learn. There is work if you wish, but there is no rush. You are not alone anymore." The women looked at each other, unsure whether to trust the strangers. But the kindness in Nea and Ahioka's faces, combined with the calm presence of Mr. Whitaker nearby, convinced them to step forward. As they settled in, the ranch became a place of learning, healing, and growth. Nea taught them how to care for animals, while Ahioka guided them in gardening and tending plants. Slowly, the newcomers began to find confidence and purpose, just as Nea and Ahioka had years before. Through this work, the women realized that their lives had taken on a new meaning. They were no longer only survivors, they were mentors, leaders, and teachers. Their experiences of loss and rejection had given them wisdom and empathy, allowing them to guide others with patience and understanding. They understood what it felt like to be alone and vulnerable, and they used that knowledge to offer safety and hope to those who needed it most. The children who visited the ranch grew under their care as well. They learned about animals, plants, and the land, but more importantly, they learned about resilience, kindness, and respect. Nea and Ahioka shared stories of their past, of the challenges they had faced, and of the lessons they had learned. They emphasized that life could be harsh, but courage, patience, and hope could guide anyone through difficult times. The children listened attentively, inspired by the women who had transformed sorrow into strength. Word of the women's work spread throughout the surrounding settlements. People came from far and wide to see the ranch and to learn from Nea and Ahioka. They were admired not only for their skills, but for the way they treated others, with respect, kindness, and understanding. Even the Apache elders who had once expelled them began to hear of the women's accomplishments. Some visited quietly, curious and reflective, and in seeing Nea and Ahioka thriving, they recognized the strength and wisdom that had once been overlooked. Despite their busy lives, the women never forgot the past. They often spoke of the tribe they had come from, of the customs that had forced them into exile, and of the people they had left behind. But these memories were no longer filled with anger or sorrow alone. They carried gratitude as well, for the lessons they had learned, for the strength they had discovered, and for the chance to build a life filled with purpose. In reflecting on their journey, Nea and Ahioka understood that every experience, no matter how painful, had led them to this moment of fulfillment. One evening, as the sun set over the fields, the women stood together atop a small hill near the ranch. The sky was painted with brilliant hues of pink, orange, and gold. The animals grazed quietly below, the garden thrived, and the children laughed and played in the distance. Nea and Ahioka held hands, feeling the warmth of each other's presence and the satisfaction of a life transformed. They reflected on their journey, from the desert, from exile, and from loss, to the thriving, vibrant life they had created. Ahioka spoke softly, her eyes shining. "Do you remember the first day we were expelled?" she asked. "I never imagined we would find a place like this, a place where we could be safe, respected, and useful. I thought our lives had ended, but look at us now." Nea nodded, a smile touching her lips. "Yes. We lost much, but we gained more than I could have dreamed. We found hope, friendship, and purpose, and we have the chance to share it with others, to help them grow just as we have." Their words were filled with gratitude, humility, and strength. They understood that life's challenges had not defeated them, they had strengthened them. Every hardship, every loss, every moment of fear had been a step toward the life they now cherished. And now, their lives had a greater purpose beyond their own survival. They were shaping the future, nurturing hope in others, and leaving a legacy of resilience and compassion. As the years continued, Nea and Ahioka became respected figures in the community. People sought their advice, came to learn from their skills, and admired the way they had transformed their lives. They hosted small gatherings at the ranch, where lessons about animals, plants, and the land were shared with visitors. The children continued to learn from them, growing into young adults who carried the values of kindness, patience, and respect. Nea and Ahioka's influence extended far beyond the ranch. They had become symbols of perseverance and hope. The women also began to write down their experiences, creating a small collection of stories and lessons to pass on to future generations. They included practical knowledge, how to care for animals, plant gardens, and manage a ranch, as well as lessons about courage, kindness, and resilience. Their hope was that these stories would inspire others who faced hardship, showing them that life could be rebuilt, and that hope could flourish even in the darkest times. Despite the demands of their work and responsibilities, Nair and Ahioka always made time for reflection. They would sit quietly by the garden in the early mornings or evenings, listening to the wind, the animals, and the children's laughter. In these moments, they felt a deep sense of peace and fulfillment. They had turned exile into opportunity, grief into growth, and fear into courage. The ranch was more than a place to live. It was a living testament to the power of kindness, perseverance, and hope. Their legacy grew not just through the work they did, but through the people they touched. The widows they helped became teachers, caregivers, and mentors themselves. The children who learned from them carried forward the values of empathy, patience, and respect for the land and animals. And even beyond the local community, the stories of Nea and Ahioka inspired others who heard them, reminding everyone that strength could be found in compassion and determination. One golden afternoon, as the sun bathed the valley in warm light, Nea and Ahioka stood together, watching the ranch flourish. The horses grazed, the garden thrived, and the children played happily. They looked at each other and smiled, knowing that their journey, from loss and exile to growth and fulfillment, had been worth every step. They had created more than a home. They had created a life filled with meaning, love, and hope. And in that quiet moment, surrounded by the beauty of the land and the life they had nurtured, they understood something profound. That even when the world turns harsh, even when hope seems distant, it is possible to build something extraordinary. Through courage, kindness, and determination, they had turned the pain of the past into a legacy that would continue to inspire for generations.